today I talked about occupational therapy and sensory integration, and I'm a pediatric occupational therapist. I have been for over 20 years, and I've specialized working with children with autism primarily and using a therapy intervention called Ayres sensory integration. So occupational therapy focuses on human occupations, and occupations are things that are meaningful and important for people to do. So for children, occupations are really play, their education, and taking care of themselves at home, their dressing, feeding, and all those kinds of things. So pediatric occupational therapists focus a lot on feeding, dressing, things that children need to do in school, and then really a lot on their play behaviors and are they able to play in the way that they want to play. There's a lot of children that because of the way that their brains process sensory information from the environment have a lot of trouble doing the things that they want to do. And so most people have learned that there's 5 senses, but there's actually not 5 senses. There's 7 or 8, depending on how you consider your sense of being hungry or nauseous, and that one's not really named. But in addition to the 5 you learn about in kindergarten, the other ones that nobody ever talks about are sense of proprioception, which is feeling in your muscles and joints what position your body's in, and it's also feeling how your muscles are moving and how much force you're using with movement. And then the vestibular sense is, where's my head in relation to gravity? So can I keep my balance? Can I keep myself upright and maintain my posture? And then that sense works a lot with your eyes so that I can move through space and keep my eyes stable on something. So I can walk and keep looking at something, or I can run and track a football coming and catch it. So those senses work together, and actually all of our senses work together all the time. None of them work by themselves. But we do have kids that have behaviors that indicate to us that they're having problems processing sensory information from the environment. And there's a lot of different kinds of problems that kids can have. So one of the problems is that they're oversensitive to things. So they might be really bothered by things and they hide from things, try and get away from things, or they overreact, push away, get this off of me, I don't like it, cover the ears, cover the eyes, depending on what the sensation is. Other kids might be kind of undersensitive to things and sort of just, someone's calling my name, I didn't hear that, or a ball's coming toward my face, I didn't even see it, and I got hit in the face. And then the other problem is that I can't really tell the characteristics of the sensation, so I have trouble manipulating things. I might pick things up and squeeze them too hard and break them, or I can't manipulate things well and I'm dropping them because I don't feel that slipping past my fingers. Especially in preschool, kids will have problems with the pegboards and the buttons and their, all the little preschool things that they need to manipulate with their hands and fingers. And then another kind of problem is that because I don't have good sensory processing, I don't have a good body awareness, and then it's really hard for me to figure out how to make my body move through space to do the things I want to do as a kid, which is usually climbing and jumping and running and playing and all the kid things that kids want to do. So the children that have those kind of problems often can't come up with how to make their body move to do what they want to do, and sometimes they can't even come up with what's an idea for how do I even want to play, because most of us can look at objects and just inherently know what an object might be good for. So if you look at a ball, you can say, oh, it's a ball, it's round, it's rollable, it's bounceable, it's throwable. Some of our kids will look at objects and they can't figure that out, and they just don't know what to do with the objects, and then in addition can't figure out how do I move my body to use these objects. So their play is really affected, and they may have very repetitive play, can't come up with new games, won't change their games to make them harder, and then just really have a hard time moving through space for the games that their peers are playing. So all of these issues can happen at the same time, or you may have just some of them and not others of them. But all of them can end up, for the kids that have these issues, they may have issues with self-esteem as well, because, all their peers can do these things and why can't I? Or because of these issues that I have, I'm constantly getting yelled at and I'm in trouble and I can't help it. And, why am I always getting yelled at and in trouble? And they just don't understand. So there's self-esteem issues that can come out of it later on. So as therapists, we would work with that also, trying to help kids to feel really good about what they're able to do. So in therapy, we use, if you're doing Ayres sensory integration, it's a child-directed, playful approach that helps kids by providing a challenge that's attainable. So we call it the Just Right Challenge. And we create an environment for them to play in that provides the sensory inputs that they need, and gives them an attainable challenge so that they can learn how to move their body and process sensation and feel good about what they accomplished, to work on all those things all at the same time, or one at a time. But we can work on all of them all at the same time in the clinic. The treatment approach is very playful. It's very fun. Generally, the kids really enjoy it. And it's really fun for the therapist to be able to do it also. And it's very different than other kinds of approaches that are much more adult-directed, where you're sitting a child down at a table and telling them what to do. So, this approach, because it's child-directed, the therapist and the child are working together to create games. It's not that the kid gets to, decide everything to do and just runs all over the place and does whatever he wants. It's not that. But we're working together so that whatever the child is interested in, the therapist is going to use that and build from that to keep them really motivated to be in the game and play, as they're working on things that are hard for them, but they don't really feel like they're working because it's all very play-based. So the last piece that I talked about today is that there's a lot of research going on right now to try and document that sensory processing is a real problem, because a lot of people don't believe that it's a real problem, and people think that it's just part of other problems, that, that's autism, that's attention deficit disorder. And people with autism and attention deficit disorder can have sensory processing issues, but they're different. They're not the same thing. So some people have both, and some have one or the other, but they're different. So a lot of research is happening right now to really document that this is a real disorder, with the hope that someday it'll be a diagnosis in the DSM. And there's also research going on trying to document that the therapy that we do is effective to help with these problems. Our state of evidence right now is not as good as we would like, but we're starting to get some good evidence behind all these things, and we're hoping there'll be more in the future.